think we're narcissistic.
If we moved our culture towards where modern Greece stands.
I don't know enough about modern Greek culture, honestly, and I don't know, but I do know that
specifically with
in America, I feel like we have this like self-fulfillment is the highest good, and that's just such a lie. And but that's been going on for years, and I think what we're reaping the ideological not benefits, but fruit of that, consequences of that. But I think it has to do with this idea of like, oh, if I'm not self-fulfilled, then like when that's the highest good, like the whole thing falls apart. And it's I think we need to tell a different story, that like fulfilling yourself or like making yourself be comfortable, or like, I mean, even the fact that we have instant like grocery deliveries, or like anything you want can arrive at your porch with a click of a button. Like, I'm not saying that that's bad, but it does shape us. And I think it shapes us in a way that is maybe not, it makes us soft and flabby and like,
so it's symptomatic.
It's about like self-gratification, and that's really like that is the antithesis of being a mom. Like, it's not it's not gratifying. It is this like, I don't like this term because I think it can be used badly, but it is self-sacrificial. And
so it seems to me that our modern culture is pushing towards a notion of who cares what other people think, that we do what we like, as opposed to doing the duty, as opposed to doing what we ought to do. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and we were talking about traveling and why it's a good thing, why it's a bad thing, etc. And contrasting that with having kids and starting a family, especially doing it young. And I kind of found that we were arguing from different premises as to what we should be aiming at. What's the good that we're aiming at? Is the good that we're aiming at within the context of traveling? Would it be seeing as much as you can and learning about different cultures, and learning about different ideas and architecture and art, and seeing the world? If that is the good that we want to aim at, then yeah, I can see why it's good to go travel and all of that. But if that's the wrong premise that you should start from, then what is the premise that we should be setting? What's the good that we're aiming at here?
I'm so glad you brought this. I know I read this in a book. I don't remember which one, but it's so spot on. Ideally, as a culture, the idealized, like, what's the highest like figure in the culture is like a 28-year-old male who can go wherever he wants, and he has money, he can go wherever he wants and do whatever he wants. Right. That's like our highest. Well, like, wow, no offense to you, what a terrible thing to aim for. Right. Whereas like in another culture, like say like in ancient Hebrew culture, what's the highest good? It's that old person who is at that, their height of their wisdom, and they have generations following them that are honoring them and revering them, and that's like the highest good. That's what they're looking for, is like, oh, that's what I want to become. And I think we need to somehow change the narrative of our culture, like even if we just start with ourselves. What is the cultural narrative for me, or what is the narrative, what am I aiming for? And if it's going to be this upwardly mobile, unattached, rich person, like that ship sailed a long time for me, like a long time ago, and like on accident on some level. Like, I didn't want to have kids right away, and that's just how that's how it happened. And
if you remember from Dr. Nicole Blackwood's class, she pointed out that if you look at portraits of Alexander the Great, they're all youthful and embracing that youth and vigor that he had. But if you look at portraits of Caesar, then he's old and he's aged, and some of the portrait artists and sculptors would add wrinkles to his face. And you look at the coins of Caesar, he's like a skeleton.
Interesting.
He's revered for his wisdom and his age, as opposed to Alexander, who's revered for his youth
and beauty.
So you're right that we do seem to honor youth and unattachment and hedonistic impulses, but that's not necessarily what we should be aiming at. Maybe you can make an argument that we could be aiming at, but that's not necessarily a given. And so what's the argument against it? What should we be revering then? I mean, I guess like a Christian ideal would be the crucifix and Mother Mary holding your child. But I mean, maybe can you argue that that's troglodytic and old and whatnot, or
I'm not sure. I think that there are elements of, well, I mean, Jesus didn't live to be very old, so
okay. That's fair.
That's one thing. But also, I think
I could push back against that and say that God the Father, when he's depicted, is generally old. And,
yeah. That's really interesting. I'm not sure if I've thought about that enough. I don't know. I think it has to do with changing our appetites. Like, there are so many pieces of art, so many pieces of literature that are just like, this is all fleeting, like the fleeting pleasures of youth. Like, how often do you read about that if you're reading it, like, and do you want to spend the next 60 or 70 years of your life looking back at the glory days, or do you want to like move into your glory days? I mean, just like for you personally, like,
oh sure, that's a fair point. I mean,
like, just like think about it, and like anyone in their right mind is like, do I want to have all the things right now for the next like 3 years, 4 years maybe, and then it's gonna like the slow decline into like, oh, now I'm just looking back to the glory days? Or do you just want to keep getting better and better and better? And I know that sounds unrealistic, but that's how I'm living. Like I'm expecting to like get better and better and better, and to like to be more fully human and more fully alive. Like the older I get, like I've got plans,
Sure, sure.
things to do and people to love. And I think if we're living that way, like that's just so much richer and fuller than the first scenario. And I think given those two options, if people are actually like had someone hold out to them like, oh, do you want this one or this one, I'm pretty sure most people would choose, no, I want to keep getting better and better and like enjoy things and like the rich fullness. Like most people want that. There may be some people that are like, I don't believe in that, so I'm gonna like go for this other thing. But like,
sure. So,
I don't know, maybe we need more examples like showing that this is possible. This because I think there's cultural cynicism that's like, that's not a real thing. Like, this is all I get, and then we're done. This is all I get.
This is all you get up until like 28 or whatever. Then you're basically a dead person for the rest of your life, something like that.
I don't know, dead. I mean, it's just like the slow decline, which is also one of those things we fear, and But
okay, so there's a couple things there. I wonder exactly why we would honor the youth, say, and maybe it's something to do with like a media culture where good-looking young people tend to be the actors that you hire. And maybe there's something with football stars and baseball stars and whatnot as well. You have your prime whenever you're younger, so just implicit within a TV culture, it's kind of a given that you have to have young actors. So maybe that's some sort of influence there.
Maybe.
But it does come a lot to what you aim at. Because maybe I could argue against that and say something like, if you're telling stories that value youth as part of the characters in the story, then those are going to be the ones, and you're going to find the actors that fit that bill. As opposed to if you're telling stories that honor any sort of status that doesn't involve 28-year-olds, say, or younger, then that opens up the actors to larger roles older roles down the road. I think it has something to do with the stories that we tell. I mean,
absolutely.
Here's something that blows my mind when I realize this, is that when you look at Disney shows, for example, on Disney Channel and whatnot, all those kids are absolute geniuses, and all the parents are buffoons. And all you see whenever you're looking on television, that's laced through everything, and that.
Yeah, I see that in certain children's books too. And like the parents are like, yes, I won't name it, but there's a certain children's book that I'm like, I don't want that in my house because the dad is always a jerk, or not a jerk, but like just stupid. I'm like, I don't want that.
Well,
Nate's not
fathers
stupid.
in particular.
Yeah, fathers in particular. Yeah.
Bad raps, but I think it's just to keep it on the age thing. It does seem to be youth is almost genius levels, and then you become a buffoon, and no one takes you seriously, and everyone kind of talks down to you like a child. Like you notice that all the time with older people.
I think there's a certain element of rising above, like growing up. It's like it just doesn't really matter what people are gonna say about you. Like it really just doesn't matter, and I think like that has been a very staying factor for me in the cancel culture that we live in. Of just like, I'm going to be a person of virtue, if I can use that phrase, a person of faith. I'm going to be myself. I'm going to be this thing, this person, regardless of what people are saying about me. Do I want to do it in good company with other good people and like-minded and like-hearted individuals? Absolutely. If they go away, like, am I still going to keep doing this? Like, yes, I am. And I think that's been like very important for me in this last year, because having done the master's program, I did feel very celebrated as a mom. I was doing this incredible thing, like, it's a really intense, rigorous academic program, and I'm pregnant, and I'm a mom, or then I gave birth, and like, I have a newborn, and I'm doing it. And this, like, now I'm just a normal mom. Like, I don't have another job. Like, I'm homeschooling my kids. Like, it's not glamorous. It's a lot of, like, cooking and cleaning and taking care of kids and listening to them when I'd rather be reading something else, you know? And like, but do I give up just because I'm not in the spotlight anymore? Like, no. And I think like you have to have that staying power of, it doesn't, like, I am more than what people say about me. And I think that that's kind of this aspect of like this online presence is just, it just doesn't matter. But like people just take it so seriously, and it's like, well, no, like be the person that you're supposed to be. Go do that and be you. And it doesn't matter what people say, because now we have technology that can make me say, you could AI dub this and make me say, move my mouth with it, you know, to say whatever you wanted to. And that's too bad. Like, so, but is it going to make me be a different person? I hope not.
So just to throw an idea in there in that last bit that you said, maybe this is just an idea I just came up with. Maybe that lends itself towards the sophists in ancient Greece, where now you can have anyone justify anything to you if you just type something into some sort of AI chatbot, and they can make the argument for you. That's another topic. That's a cool idea. But I think it comes to what exactly are we aiming at as a society? What do we honor as? It doesn't necessarily have to be sacred, but what is it exactly that we're aiming at? And if we're
I don't know. I think I said before. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Just the life that you kind of painted out of your day-to-day life. You know, that's not exactly. You said you said it wasn't glamorous. You know, it's like if we. Then what is glamorous? Is glamour what we aim at? What are we aiming?
Well, I mean, I think
is that not a life and story that we should be telling and aiming at? And if not, fair enough. But
I think honestly, I'm not sure that we're intentional enough to be aiming at anything, and that's part of the problem. We want the instant gratification. And we're not paying attention to how it's shaping us. And like that's a real. I have this thing about convenience, which I think is a very big deal. We do think, and again, there's nothing wrong with paper plates necessarily, but I don't like to use disposable, or I guess what I'm trying to say, I'm not going to say it that strongly. I get frustrated at holidays when all we do is eat off paper plates and then throw it away.
Sure.
I'm like, why? Why are we doing this? This seems like a waste. Like, actually, let's wash the dishes together or whatever. Do the extra work to load the dishwasher and, you know, be like, can we do this, please? Like, this is actually, is it inconvenient? Yes. Is it worth it? Yeah, I think so. And there's actually maybe good things that you find along the way in those moments that you wouldn't, because you're, like, I think we put so much emphasis on convenience and so much, like, oh, and then it's not even an intentional emphasis. It's like oh, well, I don't feel like it, so I'm just doing what's convenient. And the counterpoint, because I know this is also true, for my family Thanksgiving, we've switched to using, there's a big family, we had like 40 people there this time, we've switched to using paper plates because we have one day together where all my cousins, all my siblings, my mom and dad, the aunts and uncles, we all get together, and it's like we don't actually want to spend the time cleaning up. We want to spend the time with each other because it's so rare and it's so precious. Well, and so like to that, I'm like, okay, makes sense. Let's use those. Let's use. And actually, the women my age in the family decided that because my mother and her generation would probably still be using the nice cutlery and whatever else. And my siblings and sisters and cousins were like, actually, we want to give our moms a break. We want them to sit down and enjoy and not feel like they have to be cleaning up. And so I think that was a choice made out of love. And I'm happy to make choices. I'm happy to use paper plates if the decision is made out of love. But if it's just made out of convenience, let's not. Let's do something else. Like, we can do better.